the morning sunrise. In Lion's Gate 'neath the tall fir trees, on your face feel the ocean breeze. Feel the magic that's in the air, in Lion's Gate the fair.
Recording has now started.
Thank you, Nerdway. Welcome to the virtual Barony of Lion's Gate. I am Baron Kinrick Bearson, and today Sprang has sprung on the lion's den. Mistress Halima al-Rakkasa is a proud member of the Shire of Hartwood. She is a member of both the Order of the Carp and the Red Flame for excellence in persona development and for furthering medievalism. Also, a member of the Order of the Amaranth in recognition for her grace and kindness. She was entered into the Order of the Pelican in 2013 for service to the realm, and the Jambe, Silver Swan, and Etoile d'Argent for steadfast excellence in the arts and sciences. A passionate teacher and researcher, Halima has been a long-time player, having first received her AOA in 1997. Of her many arts and science pursuits, including dance, music, fingerloop braiding, and more, her main area of dedication is sprang, a form of textile art which is with an unusually high level of natural elasticity. We are so excited to hear about the journey of tonight's speaker as she peels back the layers of this beautiful art form. Welcome, Mistress Halima.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, and thank you for the invitation issued in the form of Mistress Kiva. Very much appreciate having the opportunity to share all of this information with you. Also, thank you to the people who are organizing all of this online work. It's really quite a remarkable effort in order to make this happen. I'm going to be pretty flexible about how we do this. I'm going to show you a lot of slides to try to give you an idea of my journey, what fascinates me about this technique. And when the slides are on, I will not be able to see the chat at all. Is there anyone monitoring the chat who could let me know when there are questions arising? Yeah. Kiva, okay. And outside of that, I have no objections to people jumping in at any time. So from here, I will share my my presentation, and we're going to start off with an image that is showing one of my shopping bags. The reason I love this image is that it shows you right off the bat that this is a very elastic fabric. This elasticity thing is not something that I've encountered anywhere else in the fiber arts so far. The fiber arts in terms of the medieval textile arts. There is knitting that I know about in Egypt and in England. Both of those seem to be relatively late period. So what is sprang? So sprang is, as you can see there in the text, that there's a little O above the A. My understanding is that it is a Danish word. It might be Swedish. I don't know. That is way beyond me. But I do know that it is that it's supposed to be having an ooish sound in it. So I tend to pronounce it sprang or sprung, and trying to share that as much as I can. So as you can see, I'm very passionate about Peter Collingwood, and it's going to show up a few more times. So I'm trying to be very visual here of what the textile is. The textile is created by anchoring both ends and it's usually warped into a single frame. So that means that the size that you lay out in your yarn is going to be about 20% larger than the item you're going to end up with. In here, I'm showing three sort of basic techniques for creating that elastic fabric. Here you can see from left to right, we have the interlinking, which is the same as the left one up top. And as you can see, it's a little bit like a chain link fence. So that is one of the foundational techniques within the Språng world. Next is the interlacing, and consider it like weaving, and it's like over one, under one, over two, under two, and it gives you a bias fabric. It's still elastic, but not as elastic as the interlinking. Now, intertwining is a little bit different yet, and that is something I have not explored very much yet. It is on my list, but that gives you, again, more elasticity than the bias of the interlace, but it's more yet than the interlinking. Here are some basic images of what I have been playing with. The two color one here is your basic interlinking. And I just use, in order to create that interesting pattern, I used two colors of yarn, alternating across the frame, and the center line of that pouch is where you see the tassel. So it was created lengthwise, and then folded, and the side stitched up, and the drawstring put in, and that's it. Very, very simple, yet using two colors can be very effective. If you take that same interlinking technique and you employ a change in the direction of your twist, you're going to create this kind of patterning here. If you take that same interlinking again and you group the yarns as you're twisting them, you can create a full net. You can combine all of them, and as you can see in the fourth one here, we have plain. Okay, back up. I'm going to do this because I hit that key because I spasmed. Now I see why people. There we go. Talk about accidentally clicking on slides. So here you can see that we have plain and we have the grouping. And so it's a matter of paying attention to where you are as you're working your fibers across the frame, as to whether you are doing a plain fiber or you are doing a lace type fiber or lace type pattern. Now, this should give you a better example of what the interlace looks like. And remember that I mentioned the bias? Well, there is your bias sprung right there. So you have the colors will travel across because everything is on the bias. The other end of the pouch is using the simple interlinking and interlinking with grouping in order to create a lace pattern. Now people say, well, where is it? Now, there are some who think, okay, well, there was that bronze cap somewhere in Scandinavia, and there was something in Egypt. Well, it gets more interesting than that. So Bronze Age. So this is a common image that you see almost anywhere around the internet, and they do like different sides of it. Some of them you should still see the bunched up hairnet. Absolutely fascinating, and it is one of the first instances that we know about where the item was complete enough to be identifiable. And as you can see, it is very identifiable. It is remarkably well preserved. Preservation is always an issue, especially that this is a textile, and you know how wood can disappear into the earth over the centuries. Well, the same thing happens with fiber as well. The Greeks had a lot of interesting things. We haven't found any extant items that I know about yet, but as you can see, we have some finds in the Hallstatt area. There's the Latin area. In Greece, it tends to be mostly images, and they are images usually on pottery, on redware, and there's a little bit in terms of the statuary. They've looked at some statuary, especially come on, no, Dagmar Drinkler, and she was making some interesting discussions about how these statues were not originally left white. They found traces of pigment, and they look closer at it, and they're kind of going like, you know what? We think that this might have been a textile that was painted on. I'm going off in a whole new direction here. Let's go back to, as you can see on this redware here and this redware here, these little frames, those to me are obviously sprung frames. You could possibly do tapestry with it, but most of this shows some kind of a zigzag or a crossing thing that says that this is sprung. Sorry, I can't find my mute. Now, in Peru, there, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the Americas, just because being the SCA, we're sort of focused on you know, Europe and trading partners, and that has changed lately. And so I get to say, and we found pieces in Peru, and in Peru they found they found not only swaths of fabric that could be used as shawls or head covers or bed covers, but they also found some interesting items that appear to be tassels. So they've got sort of there's a word, can't find it, at two equal sides and two unequal sides, and they worked a pattern into it. Absolutely fascinating, way over my head. Now, this is again, this is Scandinavia. This is Norway. This is the so-called I believe this is the Tegel stocking. Look at the lovely pattern, and that is done with changing the direction of the twist as you're working the fiber. Absolutely fascinating. And as you can see, we have in Egypt, basically Achaemen and Antinoe and Antinopolis, and to those last two, Antinopolis and Antinoe are the same place. And that is where I tend to focus because number one, that's closer to where my persona lives, and they have the most number of finds there. It's absolutely phenomenal. You go into the online calcium museum, and they have thousands of fragments of Språng. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, one thing that really got me excited was finding Språng in North America, in New Mexico. Now, this shirt, it tends to be called the Tonto shirt because it's found near Tonto Monument, and this is one that Carol James has been a part of recreating. Now, Carol James is a Språng artist who lives in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and she worked with a team of people who grew cotton that was suited to the period. They looked at dye. She studied the original and she recreated it. And in the recreation, learned all kinds of interesting things about it. Absolutely wonderful. And so North America, we have two items, and in Yugoslavia, now we're right in High Middle Ages. There is a fresco. I have not found an image of that fresco yet. I am so looking forward to when that appears. We also have other frescoes later on, and inventories, so lists of items that are made from Språng. And we're looking at Switzerland, Belgium, Transylvania, and even more in the Scandinavian countries. I had to grab this lovely image. It's out of a 16th century book, and it is showing someone working Språng. There is no other way to have that image based on anything else. It's got the crossing, it's got the sticks that are used to help manage the twists as you work it. All of it is there. It's wonderful. The images just excite me no end. More images. Here we have Mary at the Loom. Okay, so Slovenia, and again, she's got her hands in that position that says that she is working Språng. Same thing with the other image, and that is from a painting. And I neglected to find out where Lucas Cranach was actually working. But as you can see, is more Språng. So that is where in the world that we know about it so far. These places have all had good environmental qualities in order to preserve items, and that is why we know about them. If anybody finds references anywhere else in the world, please let me know. I'm going to add it to my map. So my journey in this started because I wanted to upgrade my kit, my clothing. And in studies in textile history, I found an article by Elizabeth Crowfoot about the clothing of a Nubian bishop in the 14th century. It was a little bit south, but you know, Nubia was actually part of Egypt during SC time period. Yeah, I'm good with that. In there, I found not only line drawings of the various garments that Bishop Timotheus wore. We also found that there was a description and a line drawing of a piece of plain Språng that was used as a drawstring for his sherwal, for his trousers. And so I have to have a proper drawstring for my trousers. And for that, with hunting things down, I found Peter Collingwood, and I found a massive book on the techniques of Språng. And it has pretty much everything in there that you could want in terms of how to do these techniques. I didn't agree with him on everything. I did hunt down all of his sources, and I did find a few that were kind of like, I don't know if he should have counted that, but he was obviously being very thorough about it. And this is my go-to, even though I also have the book by Julie Cleat, and I have everything by Carol James, and I pulled up some other files on the internet from come on now, what's the word? The Netherlands, Holland. So this is me learning how to do it. And of course, when you learn how to do something, when I learn how to do something, I like to have smaller practice pieces so that, I don't mess up the big thing. And so for me, I worked with linen. I worked with crochet cotton. I worked with this is a knitting cotton. This is Egyptian like long fiber cotton, and this is wool, and that is wool that I dyed with onion skin, spun, and then I worked at the Språng. Those two pieces did not go into largesse. All of these other little ones, they all went into largesse. So there are people out there in Kingdom, in Principality, who have some of my pouches, and I have no idea where they went. So I hope they enjoy them. This is one of my interesting challenges, because I was talking to Mark de Goncler, and he was talking about needing a raised cord, and he asked me if I could do it in Språng. So this gave me a chance to look at, well, why is it twisting? Because I would do a length and take it off the frame, and it would twist into a cord. And he didn't want it quite so rounded. So I worked with playing with the twist forward and back in order to be able to get something that would lay flat. Now, I did do it in, what's that evil material? Acrylic, because you could throw that in the washing machine without a problem. Moths don't bother it. And I had to work it on an 8-foot long board. So this board runs floor to ceiling, and I have it leaned up against my kitchen wall here. But you can already see that there's a stick at the top, a stick at the bottom. That's me controlling the twist. And that is every time you twist 2 threads to hold it in place, you have to put something in there to maintain that twist. Here's a close-up of the ends. And this is me playing because I can. And so here are the loops that went around the rod at either end. I did a little bit of sumac twining in here. This shows up, I believe, in tapestry work. I think Etienne can correct me on that. And then this is plain interlink here, and this is grouped in order to create the little lace pattern. And then I went up here into changing the direction of my twist as I was working in order to get the material to lay flat. Any questions so far? Silence? We're okay then.
We had one comment.
Yes.
Which is that I love that modern tech is allowing these libraries to scan the handwritten inventories and
Oh,
allowing us to
yes.
transcribe them into searchable documents.
Yes, yes, I agree. It is such a lifesaver for me because I don't have the wherewithal to visit all of these museums and all of these wonderful shows that people put on, these textile extravaganzas. And so to be able to find it online has been a lifesaver. It has been an inspiration for me. In 2011, I decided that I had enough skill that I would put a single piece into Tiri ANS. So that was 2011, and that was my attempt to recreate as well as I could an actual extant piece. I think this one was in the Whitworth Gallery in Manchester. And as you can see, the original had two colors. It had two different treatments of each of the colors. We still have the remnants of the top where the work was tapered, and we still have the drawstring. And so this here on your lower left is showing all of the tools that went into making this cap, except for the frame. I might have an image of the frame. So the red that you see here, I spun that from some red dye fleece, wool fleece that I had. So I spun that up, and I twisted the drawstring cord for it, and I made I wove the forehead band for it. I wove that on a backstrap loom, and this is the backstrap loom right here on the far left, and before I even did that, I decided that I wanted a nice back strap. And so I wove myself first a back strap, and then I used that back strap in order to weave this band. I was a little insane. I might still be insane. Excuse me. Okay, so the pattern for the forehead band is based on one of the many images in the Kelsey Museum. And the description on the original said the black was wool and this beigey color was linen. Well, I had white linen, so I used that. And I had some black wool, and so I used that. And it was easy enough to work out sort of the lace panels and then the lace patterns, but to get the two going together, building it at the same time, was an interesting challenge. I don't know how many times that I undid rows because I found that I had picked up like the wrong one, and I had to back it up, and that means like twisting everything, and I had to untwist it down to where I could see where I made the mistake and correct it. It was crazy. It was fun crazy, but it was still crazy. And then in 2012, I tried again with a different one, this time kind of doing like a variation of it. This one did not work out so well. I still have the piece, but it was not great when I was done. However, I had the greatest conversations with museum people. I wrote to one ago, no, I've lost the name of the museums. This one though was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, and they were most helpful. We actually had some back and forth conversations. I was asking them about so tell me more about this. What kind of fiber is it actually? And you know, that size. I mean, I measured my head, and why you think it's for a child confuses me, because it would fit my head. And does that really tie into with this other era, because they had this one dated to, I think it was like 1000 BC, but they had others that look very similar, that kind of, they were more like 4th century BC. And I said, so why is there this 400-year difference? And they wrote back and said, so we've redated the display, and you'll see the update on the website very soon. And that just blew my mind, because they were open to re-examining their own piece that they'd had there for I don't know how many years, just based on the questions that an amateur, a passionate lover of this technique brought forward. So I mean, I'm still flabbergasted. And so whenever someone says, well, I saw this at the museum, but I don't know, and I'm kind of going like, right to the museum. You'll be amazed how much people will talk to you about this, because you get to geek out with the same thing. It's absolutely wonderful. Anyway, let's go on. So 2018, I did this one. This is currently my favorite one. So this one is, I'm not trying to copy any one particular piece. What I'm doing is taking aspects of different caps and hairnets within the same era, and creating them into a fashion that works for me. And so I call it my red hairnet, and it is cotton and linen. And what did I put on the next image? Okay, so this is one of the images from the Kelsey Museum, and now you can kind of see maybe where I get crazy for this. Look at the pattern on this. See all of these little lacy diamonds in the length of the cap. They've also got some twining there that is still beyond me. I'm working on it. And in amongst all of that is the simple interlink. But look at this little piece here. This is just one of many examples of the forehead band. See, all of these caps have half that is solid on something, whether it's something woven as you see there, or it is just a braided cord that has been stitched on, and plain weaving as well, as you might recall the red and white one at the very beginning of my pieces. This is just one example of what's available online. Again, this is Kelsey Museum. You've got the accession number there if you want to hunt it down. It's absolutely wonderful. So here is that variation on that band that you saw on the Kelsey Museum piece. In here, I used linen, as they did on the original, and then I used cotton. And so this layout, I have active fingers here. Let's go back to here, and I'm going to flip back to, where am I? I'm so sorry. Let's go back to this one. Okay, so there is, so that is based on the piece in the Kelsey Museum. Here is another of the Metropolitan Museum's head wraps, and you can see the pattern in that. See, it's got sort of a diamond lace shape to it. So that's what I did here, and that's what you see here. So the caps always have something solid along one edge of the opening, and the other side usually has loops either the same size or longer loops through which a drawstring cord goes through twice in both directions, because it is acting as a drawstring, so you can actually snug it up. Do I have? I'm going to put that out here so that I can show you the details on something like that when we stop sharing. Okay, so this cord here, this is the drawstring that runs around the nape of the neck. So nape of the neck is back here. And then you have the solid band. So that holds everything in place. It gets stitched on, and I'm probably jumping ahead of myself here. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. Okay, so when I'm working this sprung, and you can see that I have it on a narrow rod here, and so you're working from the middle, going up and going down, so that as you come towards the center, you get smaller and smaller space to work. However, with so many of these caps, what they'll do is they will start grouping the twists, so that instead of working one thread and one thread, a little further along, they'll go like 2 threads and 2 threads, and then they'll do 4 threads and 4 threads, and that creates the taper as they get to the middle. When you get to the middle, you either chain it, or you run a drawstring through it, or I forgot what the third thing was that you can do to anchor it so that it doesn't all come apart on you. Then you fold it in half, so you have the narrow at the top, and then it gets wider, and then you stitch the sides. And if you stitch the sides well, the stitching becomes invisible because it becomes a part of the fabric. Or you could do what they did in period, and use something to contrast it, so that you have, for instance, if you use like a black and white cap, and you can like stitch the sides with a red, and it becomes this lovely little feature. Okay, so that's the drawstring, that's the forehead band. There is the body of the fabric. Okay, I realize that I'm kind of speeding up. Let me know if I have to slow down or something. Somebody stop me. Okay, so when I'm experimenting with twist patterns, again, I make pouches.
Sorry, Halima, we do have a question.
Sure.
The question is, so do those tails hang down, or are they used to wrap or braid in the hair? I guess the tails that were in the 2 lobe things at the back of the
2 lobe things. Okay. I'm going to unshare. Unshare. Where are we? We got it up here. Stop share. And you can put me central if you want. Okay, so this is one cap with tails. I need a skull. Well, I guess the only skull I have is mine. So it goes over, and the tails cross in the back. Can I go for my? Surely I could do this. Okay. And no, they're not going to go over very well. But what happens is that these tails wrap around and they tuck in. So they create this kind of a turban thing. Does that clarify it?
Yes, I think that's perfect.
Okay, good.
Similar to a braid at the cap. Yeah, I think that's.
Yes, yes. Okay, back to sharing. And it's this one. Come on. Okay, so here is me experimenting and practicing. And of course, much of this went into largesse, and I also sell them as part of House Blue Dog because they're so awesome. So I tried to make them big enough to be able to take like cell phones and so on, because they do hide things very well, and because they are elastic. And because they are elastic, let's see, can we do this? It's a little one. If they're elastic, it's very amenable for stuffing lots of things into it. And for me, it's practice, it's fun, it's like, oh, I've got this really cool yarn. I wonder what this looks like in a pouch. And so I kind of go crazy. Now, I do play with it a little bit. So one of the things that I've seen is because I haven't come across anything quite like this in SCA period. For me, it's about practicing the technique itself. So I see people making these pouches, and when they finish the opening that was on their rods, they'll just put the drawstring through it. And I found that for me, it drove me crazy. And so I decided that I would do a chain edging for the opening. And when I worked the pouch, I included individual holes, like taking that lace pattern and creating individual holes to put the drawstring through. And to me, it just makes it more elegant. And then I get to play with the midlines as well. The midline, when you work from one end of the fabric, you work in the two ends of the fabric towards the middle. That is your midline. How do I finish off the midline? Well, I usually chain it, and sometimes I can chain in the middle of the chain, and it just creates another interesting little texture on the pouch. Now, one of the things that got me into experimenting with the twist patterns was the sprung belt from the 11th century. So this is almost a nod to the Teagle stocking, or maybe it's just because it's taking a similar technique of twist patterns. And so the Teagle stocking, they make little diamonds, and with this one here, can I think it was Latvia? No, I'm not sure of the country, but they used sort of like a little zigzaggy pattern going down it. So I went from there to, gee, what can I do with my pouches? And so you can see I've got separated diamonds. I have diamonds that are connected cheek by jowl. And you know, this 11th century belt, I'm not that far away from making one of those too, because I can. What I did do is Lady Aspasia needed some garters, and so she had some silk, and so that's what I did. And if you think you're seeing an embroidery slate here, that's what it is. I just turned it sideways, and that became my sprung frame. I'll use almost anything for sprung frame. If it'll hold its shape, it's at risk. But as you can see, I did twist patterning, and so I did diamonds all the way down. The Tigo stocking is triangles, and so there's just like that. And you can see that I had them joined all the way around. So these things don't twist at all. They stay beautifully flat. One of these days, I'm going to get a picture of us busy actually wearing these. And of course, in my experiments, I also go like, it's elastic. I can make toques. And so there I am again, and I'm working again with different patterns of twist in order to create something of interest. And then stepping like beyond that, now we're kind of getting into modern things. What with various attempts to ban plastic shopping bags, I kind of went a little bit crazy, and I made some sprung shopping bags. And you know what I'm saying here, if you have to ask, you can't afford one. These are they're fairly time consuming to create, but they are a miracle of holding. They'll just expand incredibly. The one on the lower right here, yes, that took somewhere around 40 hours, maybe a little bit more to create. And I am happy to teach people to do that. The one on the upper left, I don't think it was 40 hours. I think it was a little bit closer to 20. And with that one, I experimented with doing the closed interlinking, and then introducing the open laced the open lace work interlinking to create patterns. And as you can see with the pumpkin there, they hold a lot. When I mentioned that I teach, this is part of my teaching kit. In the Ziploc here, we have a nice size frame. We have a couple of rods on which to mount the yarn. We have a latch hook in order to manage some of the crocheting part. And there's a whole mess of little sticks in there. So as you can see, we have 2 frames set up behind, and that is what it looks like when it's being worked on. So it's a simple frame. You can use almost anything. I have my very first frame was a wire office basket, and almost anything. I mentioned that. Never mind. And so you have something across top and bottom on which to mount the yarn. It can be just another cord. I like the rigidity of a dowel or one of the sturdier knitting needles to create something that I can work against, because I have a tendency to make things very, very firm, very tight. And this cord here, that is the safety cord. So once I've got twists in, even when I have my sticks in there to hold the twists in place, sometimes things happen. And if I am starting a pattern that I haven't done before, I will put in a safety cord or 2 or 3, and then I will work it. And when I know that it's that the pattern is holding together, I'll take them out. Or if I'm going to pack them up to take out of the house. Again, I put the safety cord in because the little sticks that go in there, they fall out. So, you know, always make sure you've got your work secured. So this is my next adventure. I want to do more with the interlacing, and I experimented with one over here, and I did a class with someone else, and then I saw that there was this come on, YouTube video that is relatively new. I hadn't seen this before, and that's where I'm going next. Now, this is from, I believe this is all from Dagmar Drinkler's publication, and she's the one who's going like, you know, there are statues that had been painted, and she's working out, well, how would you create that fabric? And she's got it. She really does. And same thing with here. And there was another one. Come on now. And Carol James saw paintings of gondoliers, you know, the Italians, whatever, with very interesting striped tights that are skin tight, and there's just like no way you can make them skin tight in fabric. And so she worked with Språng to see whether that might be the actual material used, and it worked beautifully. So, you know, if you're Venetian and you want to have tight tights, you need to look into Språng. And that is all that I have for you right now. So are there any questions?
Any questions? I have a question. You mentioned the sprang that's been found in North and South America. Do you think that might be a possible future route for research? That shirt was amazing.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
No, the what I thought was very interesting about that shirt is learning that that it was, let's see now, how do I put this? By the sounds of it, it was worked from top down, and then it was cut in half, and what was in the middle was fringed, and the second piece was flipped. Sorry, hang on. Okay, you're doing it this way, and you cut it there, and so you go this way, except it went that way. So instead of what had been the outside continuing to be the outside, like, you know, you're working on it and it's like this is going to be the outside, but it's not. When they stitched it together at the shoulders, on this side it's the front, and on this side it's the inside. Does that make sense?
Right side to wrong side if you're talking about fabric.
That's it. That's exactly it. Of course, it doesn't actually make that much of a difference in Språng, but that's what they did for that shirt, because she followed. Okay, I'm talking about Carol James here now. She followed one of the designs, and went, okay, so this looks like it was probably an error. And so when she looked for it on the same side of the body, it wasn't there. It was on the other side of the body. And that's how she worked out that there was some cutting and flipping. So yeah, it's just, oh, It's incredible stuff.
Very cool.
Just a comment here from someone who has not done Sprong, but has done just about a lot of other things. Knitting, crocheting, some weaving, bobbin lace. There are so many elements of all of those things in this.
Oh. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm looking at your the last one that you haven't done yet. What did you call the intertwining? And I looked at that and went, bobbin lace.
Yes. Yes. That's
That'd be
exactly it.
something when
Because
talking about
because
this-
you're twisting.
And you're basically twisting like
Yeah.
that, and then you're joining knot and go the other way.
Yeah.
And the same diagonal treatment.
So and because I've seen a little bit of bobbin lace, so all I can go is like that just boggles my mind. Well, it looks like I have to get a handle on the concept because it's in Sprung.
I have lots of books I can lend.
Awesome. I think we got the Denman Island
Makers Guild.
by Bobbin Weavers, yeah. So Bobbin Lace Guild here. Yeah. I will explore that.
I have a question, but I'm wondering if anyone else has a question before I totally monopolize your time.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that I can hardly wait for you to be able to take a photo of me wearing my things too, because I've pretended to get dressed in them, but I haven't been able to wear them to an event. So
Yeah.
it will be my pleasure to have you take a photo. And I am
Excellent.
very much appreciative of them. They're
Oh,
beautiful.
I'm glad. No, I think I finished those last year, didn't I? So we didn't have a chance to go show them off anywhere.
No.
Yep. Anything else?
I'm sorry, we have a child who's not happy about bedtime, so I had to mute for a second. My question is, you quickly touched on Viking Age migration period, Sprang. I was wondering if you could touch base on that, because Sprang is not something we see a lot in the SCA Viking recreation, but it really seems to be a gap. I was wondering if you mind touching on that briefly? I'd be curious about it anyway.
I don't have a lot of detail on that. Just because, as I said, because my persona is Near Eastern, I sort of looked at it. I went, "That's really exciting. Now let's go look at Egypt."
Right.
So you know, I want to learn more about that as well, just so I can have a better idea of how things existed in terms of that textile technique. One of the things that I haven't seen yet is the use of color in Scandinavia. I've been seeing colors in Egypt because, you know, preservation, but when things get, say, lost in a bog, everything just goes brown, right? So it's I'd like to find out whether that Bronze Age hairnet actually was that sort of thing was used later on over time, or whether it was just something very special and was what survived. I want to know more about it too. So I'm afraid I can't offer you anything more than what you see. I'm sorry.
No, it was amazing. Because I mean, I really enjoy the Viking Age research, and the first time I wanted to do a Coptic piece at Kingdom, and the very first time I dipped my toe into Egyptian textiles and the tidal wave of information and color, and because of the preservation, as long as it was above the flooding of the Nile, it was incredible. And I was like, wow, this is what a lot of people, this is way better. It's incredible. Yeah. What is your persona, if I could ask?
Syria, 1085. So this is after the fall of Manzikert and just before the Frangi got uppity. Oh, sorry, Crusades.
Interesting. Well, I just want to thank you so much for the amazing, I thought you laid it out really nicely in terms of different time periods. I really enjoyed the map that was, and how you unified and touched on, I would say New World, it's a bit of a controversial term, but the Americas, I thought you did a great job. And then you went through your pieces and what you entered. I really, I found it very clear and very interesting and very inspiring in terms of, I think in Thierry, I know who to come to if I have questions on Sprang or want to go in that direction. I think you'd be the person. Oh, so I'm saying that she's like someone wants a copy of those maps too. I can understand why.
I think I can convert them to PDFs, and someone sends me a link, and I can email it.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any questions?
No questions, but it was really interesting. I really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. I don't often have a chance to sort of rant uninterrupted about it, so it's a pleasure. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I was going to get a book to start on this, which one would you recommend?
Do you want something that is very academic and dry, or do you want something that's that tells you how to do it right? Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I would
Just
say Carol James, and she has two Sprung and Sprung, because what she does is she will teach people with sort of like the top half, so that they're not, the threads are not anchored at both ends, but it will get you started. If you anchor at both ends, then that's it. You've got the technique. So Carol James, Carol James, James. So Sprung, sorry, Sprung Unsprung. And she also has a second book on lace patterns, and I would highly recommend that. I can't quite understand her method for creating pattern, like when she writes it out on paper. I can't quite get a handle on it, although I do sort of vaguely follow. But it might work really well for you. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes, I tried to teach myself earlier on during the pandemic and failed miserably with YouTube. So I thought a book. So that'll work. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm curious, is the dry one the Peter Collingwood? Yeah. I've got his rug book, and it's a masterpiece, but it's not the most riveting read in the world.
When I first started going through Collingwood, one of his sections got me really confused, and this was early on, before I understood where he was coming from, and it was complicated. I couldn't figure out why it was so complicated. And then I had a glass of wine and I came back to it, and I realized that he was giving every minor detail movement of your fingers for each thing. Once you follow that, he was very detailed in his explanation of the how to. After that, it became easy. So so for me, it's kind of like as long as you understand that Collingwood is going to get into the nitty gritty, not a problem.
I have to say,
It's like his tablet weaving book.
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
excellent.
Yeah.
But
It's excellent, but you have to understand what he's doing.
Yeah. I'd like his tablet weaving book too.
I'd like to mention that I really appreciate the fact that you are when you are creating your works, you are extrapolating from contemporaneous works rather than slavishly copying. That to me is a true form of artistry.
Thank
To
you.
be able to take what was and create something new that could have been. That's sort of what the SCA is about, isn't it?
Yep. Well, I don't see a lot of historical cell phone pouches or shopping bags in Sprung. So, yeah.
I was thinking of the cat, the red hairnet, right?
Right.
You took bits from there, bits from there, bits from there. They're all from
Yep.
sort of the same time period.
Yep.
Put them together in a new whole.
And there is a relatedness to everything that I brought together. Anyway, so it's like they could have done that, but we just don't have a piece to prove it yet. Yeah. Awesome. Anyone else?
Are you is it, I was thinking, are you presenting Athenaeum, or was it last? My brain is so fried these days. Are you presenting this year? No, last year?
I did not do it last year. I was invited last year, and it was so over my head. And so yes, I am endeavoring to do so this year.
Okay, great. Awesome. So can we, if you're interested, because Athenaeum is really interesting, where it's going to be each artist gets a web page. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
So if we want to check out your stuff, we can check it out at Athenaeum.
I'm thinking about riffing off of what I did today for Athenaeum. Is that the right word? Riff, R-I-F-F.
We're so cool.
Just because it's the journey for me, right? I mean, I'll probably throw in a couple of things that I'm particularly proud of. Like there's a little bit of calligraphy that I'm rather proud of creating, and a little bit of pewter, just because I'm not all textile.
And dance, you do quite a bit in dance, or is that not so much any?
Well, I'm not going to do dance for Athenaeum, but for dance, yeah, I'm kind of like, the Middle Eastern is really strong, but I like doing a little bit of English country as well. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you could join us today. And it's so interesting as somebody who I love textiles and I love weaving and creating. It's just so neat to see a completely different style. And speaking in modernly, like I have seen like complex pieces into like the American Revolution. Like it was quite popular for quite a long time into the modern-ish era.
Have you seen George Washington's red sash?
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's silk, so it's like, so it wraps into this like this little cord, but then you spread it out, and it's like what, 5-6 feet wide and 12 feet long or something. Absolutely stunning. It's just like, oh, it's just like gives you the vapors. Well, just because it has such a luscious look to it, and it's a luscious feel too when you start working with the fiber, when you start working with the fabric and creating it. It's absolutely wonderful. It feels good, it just feels good. And you kind of get right into it, right? When you're working the warps, you have your hands inside, so you got like half the warp is here and half the warp is here, and then you're manipulating them. And it's like, when they say, well, you're really getting into your work, here you are.
You're in the work.
I'd like to comment that once we actually can meet in person again, that if you can attend one of Halima's classes on Sprong, she does an awesome job of teaching it too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I'd like to take it for sure. And then for anyone else if anyone in the audience in our group knew people that were interested in coming tonight but weren't able to, this will be recorded. And usually we have about a 2-week lag, and then it'll be up on the Baronial YouTube channel. So that will be coming up very soon, which has been a great resource. A lot of people have been going up and going back and watching the talks, which is great.
Nice. And I do have, let's see, yes. I'm getting hung up in my cables. Not sure what we see here. Okay. So I have what I bring, one of the things I bring to class is my framework, because I can show very, very clearly how to work the strands. And it's it's sailboat rope, right? You know, just lines they use for hauling in sails. And so I can set it up in front of the class and I can do this big thing. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, normally after the talks, we kind of open it up. So if anyone has any comments or questions or anything, just let us know. I love that you make your own shopping bags. I love how you're like, you can't afford these, but I make these.
Well,
yeah,
it's because they take time to make, you know?
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know, this one I got a little fancy. So I did a little bit of sprung in order to create the handles, and I laced them through the top loops of the completed shopping bag. And so that is the bag right there. And again, you can see.
Beautiful.
It looks to me like for that one, you didn't have all the threads attached at the top and bottom to start with. You added more to make the V.
Nope. That is the, okay, so the V in the pattern, that is just done with manipulation.
No, I'm actually talking about the shape of the bag itself, where you've got it's not, or is that just because it's not sewn up all the way?
That's just because I started off with working the two sides, excuse me, working the two sides separately.
Ah.
So I worked that side and I worked that side. Now I did do it at the same time.
Okay, so those two are on the rod.
So,
and then you know.
So I just kept working those separately. When I got down to this row, I started to work them all together. And then the side one is just because there's the sewing. There's sewing in there. You can see sewing, right? So that is sewing the sides together, and that creates the V part at the sides.
Okay, now I'm getting flashes from knitting.
Yep. And then here's the bottom. Let's see now. Where can we get this here?
That's the center line.
Let's get this. Yep. So this is center line. We see I put a little pattern in there too, because you know I could. So you can see there's a little bit of playing with the come on now, can't find the words. So my central line ends.
So that denser lacework there, make it a bit stronger on the bottom too?
It not necessarily stronger, but it does make it not quite as elastic.
Yeah.
So this part here, I can stretch out about 2.5 feet. Let's see now. And let's see, where's something that isn't quite so much. I don't have anything that I can give you a good example.
Well, the thing with meshes too is that
to-
you have
to
to
comparison.
recall that as you put more in it and they spread out that way, they shorten a little bit as well.
Yes, yes. Yep, because you could see that in my shopping bag that I had the pumpkin in, and it was just like it became one big round bag of groceries. Well, I used it for going to Seaford Farms, and I loaded it up with cabbage and broccoli and carrots and potatoes and a pumpkin, because I could. And I got to tell you, every time I think about making fabric, I go like, "Oh, can I do this in Språng?"
I think that was my favorite part, I think, of listening to this class, was just how passionate you are about it. You know, it's really, it makes me excited about it. And
well, that's good.
So awesome.
That's good, because it's a fascinating technique that it doesn't take much. Like once you start working with it and your brain starts firing off and coming up with ideas of where else you could use this. You've seen the thing about the Lindbergh bra, right? Except it wasn't a bra. You know, they eventually worked out that no, that was actually a cap, like a Brigitta's cap, but there's sprung in it, and it's like I want to do some of the sprung. Come on now, Lindbergh. I had another thought. I lost it. I guess it'll come back later. 3 o'clock in the morning.
Halima, with the Lindbergh one, there's the bra that has the cups in it, and it has a little V of sprang in the middle and little bits of sprang on the shoulders. It's not the part, not the cap one, but the top one. I kept thinking, like, I don't want to learn a whole new craft just to do this little triangle, but I want to know what that would do to how it fits.
Well, see, that is not a bra. That is a cap.
No, there's more than one piece. There's one that actually has cups sewn in circles, and then there's a V shape here. Just this.
Okay.
Just this little bit here.
Right.
It would only be a piece of sprang, like, 4 inches by 3 inches tops. But I wonder how that would work with the fit, because the breasts are sort of separately encapsulated.
Yeah.
And then this fills in a gap in the middle.
I'm going to look at that, because my original look when they first found those pieces went from, this is a bra, actually no, if you turn it this way, it is definitely a cap.
Yeah,
I will look more into that. But in terms of the centerpiece being more elastic, I don't see there being a problem with that, because Språng will do that.
This is an example. Oh geez, you can't even see, it's so bright. Oh my god. This is a sample of somebody. Reflection. It's a sample. If I can find the original piece, because I've downloaded almost everything I can find about the Lindbergh finds, from all those lovely educational sites. If I can find the right one, I want to send you a picture and see if you can
Sure.
talk to me about that little piece of
I must. Yep. No, send me images, whatever links you find. I am open. I'm open, because makes my stack of binders higher yet.
Right. I know.
Because they're only about this high right now, so we're okay.
It's only 3 foot tall. It's okay.
It's manageable.
Actually, I got about 4 foot of sprung, but that's okay. That's okay.
Awesome.
It's because it's interesting, it's fascinating, and you get to do things like translate from the Dutch, and figure out that when the Google translation says wire, they mean thread.
Nice.
So that was Risama with a last name that begins with an S. And it's again, it was a fascinating article. I don't agree with the way she displayed how a hairnet was worn.
Right.
But okay.
And not everybody wore everything the same way every time anyway.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I kind of look at things in terms of, number one, is it comfortable enough? Number two, where would it likely be worn? 3, does it get in the way? And what I was finding was that whatever she had in mind, I'm sorry, but that extra 4 feet of tails doesn't work hanging down in front. It just doesn't. It works best as a wrap.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, okay, so maybe I disagree with the experts once in a while.
Experience counts for a lot.
Well, I like to think so, but I also realize I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Nobody knows.
But you did get the museum to change the date.
That just blew me away. It was just like that. My brain was kind of like, did they do that? Did they really do that? They did that, and I was just like, ah.
And it was a lot of museums are now looking again at things that they've had for a while, especially now that they're able to put things out, to the world.
Right.
But also in lights of recent archaeological finds, more in-depth studies that have been done by way of people having more access to more documents, sort of thing.
Yeah.
All the new studies can lead to a reevaluation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, they reevaluated that one, and that just boggles my mind. And I kind of went all fangirly over it, just because,
My daughters would call it going squee.
Yeah, that's it. Squee, loud squee.
One of the wonderful things about doing what we do is that experiential archaeology portion of it, right? To be able to play with the thing that we are working on, to be able to put it to use and put it to the test.
Yeah. And that's it right there. It's you're putting it to the test. Does this work the way that the original archaeologists think? And then when you find out that no, it doesn't, then you go like, well, how would it work? What would make sense? And for me, it's like, does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, well, let's look somewhere else. So yeah, experience.
Or how would we have to tweak it to make it work or make it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for somebody who has absolutely no knowledge of most fiber arts, what is the difference between sprang and macrame?
Macrame is a knot. And there is no knotting and sprung until you get to the very end, and you have to anchor it. With macrame, everything is a knot.
Yeah. Macrame is probably more akin to bobbin lace, which is a really, really fine knot. But and even though even then it's interwoven and pinned, and once you sort of rotate the pins out, it holds together. But yeah, no, macrame is a series of knots, but it's also worked on the diagonals. In that way, it has a similar appearance to sprang.
Yeah, because working from appearances only, I mean, it's, for me, it'd be impossible to tell the difference. But now that I understand that there's knots in macrame and not in sprang, now I can start going, oh, hey, I learned all this at a talk.
It's like
Awesome.
learning the visual difference between tablet weaving and rigid heddle weaving. Because you don't, unless you look at it, you don't know that in tablet weaving, it goes in spirals with the weft thread through it. So if you look at rigid heddle, it's just over, under, over, under. If you look at tablet weaving, if you fold it, you can see the spirals up each thread.
Same with inkle weaving, which is.
Yeah, the other thing too is if you go back to Halima's analogy of a chain link fence, it just twists around each other. There's no knots in a chain link fence. Whereas a macrame has the knots, sprang just has the twisting around each other.
Yep.
Cool. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Does anybody else out there lurking have any questions? I know oftentimes the latter half of Lion's Den turns into a bit of a social at the end here. And it's probably a good idea to just turn the camera off at that point if nobody has any directed questions for Halima on sprang. Does that sound like something that people would enjoy right now if I turn the camera off, turn the recording off?
I would be okay with that.
Okay, perfect. Let me
Thank
stop
you.
the recording then.